Morning, everybody. Welcome to this Oracle 19C Oracle Database Cool Stuff for DBAs. My name is Robert Pastijn from the Netherlands, and I'm one of the product managers in the database product development team. And I'll try to give you some nice things about the Oracle Database 19C today. So first of all, we have to always show you the safe harbor statement just to make sure that what we try to tell you is the truth and nothing but the truth, but we can always make mistakes. Oracle can decide to drop things, but well, hopefully that won't happen. We'll see. So the agenda for today, very quickly, 2 slides on the release and patching strategy, looking at the marquee new features that were introduced with Oracle Database 12.2 and see what the status is right now in the 19C environment. We're going to talk a little bit about the cool features for DBAs and a little bit about Express Edition, Apex, and ADB and more. And finally, open for questions. So hopefully we will take about half an hour, 20 minutes presentation and 10 minutes for the questions and answers. For those people who have not seen it, well, where have you been hiding? But Oracle has changed the annual release policy versus the versioning. So we always started with 10 and then 11, then 12. And now we decided to change the release numbering. There's a big discussion going on whether or not this was to avoid the Oracle 13 version. But then again, we have Enterprise Manager 13, so who's counting? But basically, it means that we want to start releasing new versions and therefore new features every year. And therefore, we aligned with the year in the year number. So looking at supportability, you see that 12.201 was the first release of the 12.2 family, somewhere in 2017. And it will be released until 2 years after the next release, which was Oracle 18, which was released in the first quarter, first, second quarter, depends on which platform you are, of the 2018. And from the introduction of Oracle 18, we will support the previous version at least for 2 years. So final version inside the 12.2 family will be Oracle 19. So Oracle 19 will be supported for a longer period, and there will also be an option to have extended support for Oracle 19. So Oracle 19 is the one that everybody should basically go for if you want to go for upgrading. More information, my Oracle support note 742060.1. And as an example, we will start releasing patch updates or release updates, as they're called right now, every quarter. So just to have a very good schedule for those people who want to plan ahead for any migrations or upgrades or patches, every quarter we will release new sets of updates, release updates, and we will do that for every quarter that the version is actually supported. So if you look at 18, we will continue to support 18 until about April 2021. The last release update will be released, and then 19 until a later period. And then 20 should be a new feature. So if you really want to look at the old numbering, Oracle 20 should be the Oracle 13 that everybody's looking at. The core aim for 19C is stability. So that's one of the reasons why there is no big release fest, there is no big party going on, there's no big roadshow like we normally do on Oracle 19, because we simply want to make sure that the Oracle 19, just like 11.204, for example, is the most stable version we have in the 12.2 family of products. So that makes it that gives it a good reason to actually look at all the new features that were introduced in Oracle 12.2 and see what the status is at this moment. So what I do see in the database side of things, I started with Oracle a long time ago, 25 years. So Oracle 7.3.4 is that then it was just a database. Well, just a database. It was a database. But nowadays, what I see is that Oracle is becoming more and more of a data platform. So it's not only about storing the data, but it's also to make it very easily accessible for outside services, for the development services we have, for the platform services, to make it easy to move it to other platforms, make it high available. It's data is getting more and more and more important, not only for just storing the data, but also all the analytical services that make use of that data. Companies want to know more and more about the people they serve and the products they have, and by diving into the already existing information of the data they already have, they can retrieve a lot of information. So you see that with all the analytical services that we support, all the analytical languages like R, for example, that we support, the machine learning that is being introduced. But also if you look at the data support inside the database, so we support JSON, we support XML, we support spatial, binary, Kafka, all of these things are natively supported from the Oracle database, so you can access them the same way you do with normal relational data, and actually join them, for example, with relational data, although they are from different sources, different storage options, and even from outside systems. So marquee features, what did we introduce and where do we stand? Well, one of the marquee new features introduced in 12.1 was the multi-tenant option, where we actually basically separated the part of the database that is executing functions from the part of the database that's actually the storing of the data. And well, we basically needed this because everybody knows that if you have an Oracle database and you want to, for example, upgrade it, you need to move the data around to the new version if you want to migrate it to a new system. So we recognized that there had to be a different way of handling the data and just basically pulling the day-to-day business, how do you say that, separate the day-to-day business to the actual data that you are using in the system. So we introduced in 12.101, one of the first versions. What we also did was announce the deprecation of the non-multi-tenant environment, because we really think, we absolutely believe, I personally believe that multi-tenant is the way to go for the future, as in setup, as in database. And you see that a lot of the things we have introduced in the cloud, especially if you look at the autonomous database that we have, are only possible if you set this up with a multi-tenant setup. The demands to keep things available, demand to keep things ready for your developers with easy development, rapid development, can basically only be done using multi-tenant. So we started it in 12.101. It got really good in 12.102. So here's the statement where it says into 12.101 that non-CDB architecture will be deprecated. And also to keep in the back of your mind that all the new features that we introduce in 19C or 20 or beyond will only be available on the container database architecture, so the multi-tenant architecture. Looking at the licensing, for those people who have not seen it yet, there is no difference in licensing to actually make use of this multi-tenant setup. So if you stick to one pluggable database or one set of data in one instance, comparing it to the old-fashioned way of things doing it, then there's no extra license required. So this multi-tenant thing is available for Standard Edition and Enterprise Edition. And yes, if you want to have more pluggable database in one root container, which will really tremendously make your life easier, if you have a lot of databases to support, then you require Enterprise Edition and you require the multi-tenant option, or you need the license inside the cloud that supports multi-tenancy, which is the High Performance Edition or the Cloud Extreme Performance Edition. Journey from 12.101 to 19C, basically, if you look at all the features that we have available inside pluggable databases, one of my favorite things is the pluggable database hot cloning. There has always been a very big demand from people on pluggable databases, or basically on hot cloning. They want to make a copy of the production database, and we can now do that with pluggable database. And again, you can also do this between two systems that do not have the multi-tenant option. You can still do this hot cloning thing. Same like online relocating, we want to have 24/7 availability. So we want to be able to move data or connections on a data from one place to another place. And if you're talking about memory resource management, that's available right now as well. It's as well as I/O rate limits. So we can actually say this database has the ability to burn more I/Os per second than we can do in the other database. And we weren't able to do that in previous versions of the non-multi-tenant environments. And of course, cross-platform is also very important. You can now export something on an AIX system and then import it on a Linux system, for example, without any problems. So the hot cloning function is really, really easy. This is an example where we have an on-premise database and we have an Oracle Cloud environment because we want to well, test or play or develop whatever you want to do. You can very easily make a clone of that system without shutting down the primary system. So very simple, over the network, the database will do all the copying for you as long as there's a SQLnet connection between the source and the target. Also, you can refresh those things. So you can actually say, I want to make a clone of the source system, and then you do something, you work on it, and then you can actually say, I want to refresh this system with the latest information. So somewhere in time, you take the deltas of the source system and you simply apply them on the cloned environment. So again, all of this without any multi-tenant licensing if you just keep on one pluggable database per container. PDB relocate is very, very easy if you do not want to have any downtime. So if you have two systems available and one of the systems needs maintenance or well needs some kind of other function, you can actually move that pluggable database and plug it into another system and have your customers relocate to that other system without downtime. So without downtime is done using transparent application continuity. And again, this is a feature without any additional licenses. You can very simply say, if my connection is lost for whatever reason, planned or non-planned, I can move my connection from one system to another system. If you do this with the drivers, starting with Oracle 18, it will all be done and handled inside the driver. So there's no application code that you need to change, just the setup of the servers on the database side. And the moment the client connects with this application continuity enabled, it will automatically know what to do in case there is a problem. So from birth to 19C, what are the latest features or the new features in 18C? Basically, well, this is the refreshable pluggable database switchover is almost like a data guard kind of thing. You can actually say, I want to continuously refresh my clone. And then when something happens, when something goes wrong, I want to switch my connections from my first system to my second system. So basically, just like a physical standby database. And just to add to it, you can actually refresh your clone environments using something called a redo repository, which is basically a standby database where we store the redos. And you can use those redos to refresh a pluggable database in a different location. So you can actually add all these features together and well, there's no reason why it should be down. In 19C, there's ADDM support per pluggable database, which was really welcome to see how good you are doing per pluggable database. The syslog has some additional UIDs. Audit Vault is now supported, and there's a maximum number of data pump jobs per pluggable database, just to make sure that people are not overusing the resources due to data loading. Another one that we introduced was the database in memory. Hopefully everybody saw that we now have an option to store data in a different way. We usually store things in a relational way, and now we can actually store things in a columnar way. And storing things in a columnar way is very good for analytical features, for retrieving large amounts of data, going through columns just to get the information out there. And it's all done in memory, so there's no additional writes to the system. Everything is stored in memory. Memory is not that expensive nowadays, so you can keep a large part of your database in the memory. So we can run analytics up to 100 times faster or even more. And both of the row and the data columns are available. And basically, you don't even have to have the row information inside your memory to have the columnar options inside memory. So you can have 6 years of history in memory, and then only the last 3 in the normal SGA of your system. So what's new? Key changes. We have automatic in-memory management, so we can do it. We can do in-memory for external tables. So if you have any external tables that you want to analyze, but you don't want to store them as relational tables inside your Oracle database, you can just read them inside your Oracle database and execute them. If NVRAM memory will be available, it will be enabled for in memory as well. And there's a lot of performance improvements in 18C. One of the things that I really like is something called the memory optimized row store for OLTP workloads. So ultra fast key value pair lookups in the system. So you just have to declare a table mem optimized for read with 2 columns, and then you can get the information inside the system, and key value lookups are really, really, really fast on the system. Same we can do for writes now. That's for 19C. If you have Internet of Things or any other key value types that need to be written to the system very, very fast, you can now actually say, I want to have a table mem optimized for writes, and then you will see a lot of low latency writes into the memory buffer, and it will be fast because the redo will be basically done in the background. Some other cool features outside of the marquee features, for those people who haven't seen it, we can now support 32 kilobytes in a varchar 2 for those people that are migrating to Oracle from other platforms that have these things. And it's a very nice feature. You have to enable it and do some commands for it, but it is at least there. Long identifiers, basically the same if you come from a platform that have longer table names. You can go up to 128 bytes now if the compatible is bigger than 12.2. I'm not sure if I'm happy with that, but that's my personal feeling. I'm already struggling with long table names, so with the 30 bytes. So if we go to 128, it will be even more difficult. What I do like is the online data file move we introduced in 12.1. You can now move a data file from one place to another place, and Oracle will do it for you without downtime. You can also rename systems like that. And this is very interesting if you ever use pluggable databases and you want to move a pluggable from one place to another place. We can now do all of this online without downtime and without stopping or making the table space read-only. Same for partitioning. We can move a table from non-partitioning into partitioning, or from partitioning onto non-partitioning. So usually if you have a very large table and it grows and grows and grows, you will now be able to partition it without downtime for your customer. Privilege capture is another feature introduced in 12.1, where you can actually see which privileges a user is actually using. So if you think people have too much access to a system, you can enable this. It used to be you used to need a Data Vault license to do this, but the nice thing is that this privilege capture is now enabled in database 18C. So very easy, you can see who is using which privilege or who is misusing which privilege, and the other side as well, which privileges have been granted to somebody and is not being used by the application underneath, so you can remove them. Incremental statistics, also in 12.1. In the old days, if you want to have statistics on a very large table, you have to calculate them time and time and time again. Nowadays, we can actually gather statistics per partition, and to get global statistics, we just basically add up all these statistics together and we have the global statistics. So when a new partition is added, we don't need to gather all statistics, we just only gather the statistics for one partition, and then we know the global statistics again. Statistics enhancement in 12.2. There's a new algorithm where we can actually retrieve the statistics a lot faster, but also the size of the statistics is really a lot smaller. So if you have an 8 terabyte table with a couple of partitions in the Oracle 12.1, we needed about 160, 167 gigabytes for those statistics. In 12.2, they are smaller. Be aware, they are only created for new tables unless you push the system to actually do it. Real-time statistics are now enabled. So the moment you start inserting, updating, deleting, or loading environments, we get the basic statistics, so the number of rows, minimum, maximum, and that makes a lot of statistics very easy. The deeper statistics are still gathered in the background using automatic statistics jobs. Online table encryption, online table space encryption is now available for all table spaces, so including the system and sysocs and undo, and you can migrate from a non-encrypted to encrypted without any problem. And you can also do an RMN decrypted restore starting Oracle 18C if you want to get rid of the encryption for whatever reason. DataGuard has interesting features. My nicest feature is the one on the right. It's called multiple instance redo apply. In the old days, DataGuard had one node where it did the recovery on basically, but if you had a lot of nodes pushing environment information out, you needed more nodes to actually digest the changes, and now we can do that since 12.2 with the multi-instance redo apply. Active DataGuard DML redirection. If you have active DataGuard, you could only query on active standbys. And now we can change that. You can enable it. So you can actually do insert, update, and delete on the active standby. And then the system will make sure for itself that it basically, through a database link, applies it on the primary And then because of the redo is applied to the standby, the changes are done on the active standby as well. It's not as fast, of course, as doing instance update and delete on the primary system, but still, if you have minor changes, you can still do that on the active standby on the system. So that's on 19C. Grid infrastructure can be patched since 18C without taking down the database, so by simply redirecting the connection with the grid infrastructure from the database to another node in your rack cluster. So you can patch the grid home, and then after it's done, you patch it back, you do the other one. So that's also good for high availability. Connecting to the databases, we can now do integration with Active Directory. We have passwordless schema creation, schema-only Oracle accounts for those people that do not need connections, only for the data storage. There's a lot new things going on. Inline external tables. In the old days, when you had information outside of the Oracle database, you first had to create an external table, and then you have sales. You can now use it in the select statement, the same, either from external or from a JSON or whatever you have on the system. Coming into 19 is automatic indexes, where we will analyze your data the way we would normally analyze it, and then see if there's any indexes that will make your environment faster, and see if there's any options there to create it. We will analyze the systems fully automatic. You can turn it off if you want to, but it will be available, I think, initially only on engineered systems and in the Oracle Cloud, but who knows what happens later on. Hybrid tables are enabled on 19C, so you have a table which is partitioned, and you can actually have parts of your partitions on something else than an Oracle database. So you can actually put part of your partitions on Oracle Object Storage, for example, or any other object storage which might be cheaper for you to use, but still available inside the normal tables. You can still query it. Exadata supports Docker nowadays, so you can have Docker images running on Exadata, completely supported, completely there since 18C. Check out the Docker options on Exadata if you have an Exadata system and are using Oracle VM at this moment, but you can use Docker as well. Just to be sure on the Docker thing, you can have your database are still on Oracle VM at this moment, but you can have applications running on Docker on the same nodes as the Exadata, so therefore sell a complete system to your customer if needed. Just to be sure, before we finish off, there are some new install approaches. We have native RPMs, for example, starting Oracle 18C. You can just say yum install Oracle 18C. Oracle read-only homes, there's no client software click-through anymore if you want to install the Oracle Instant Client. And Oracle has Docker images that you can just deploy and download from our environments. Upgrading is never been easy. There's a new auto-upgrade tool where you just have to set up a very small configuration file, and you just kick it off, and the upgrade tool will pick it up for you. Very interesting. Look at Mike Dietrich's blog, so MikeDietrichDE.com. He has started a series of blog posts on the auto-upgrade tool. But also, if you search for auto-upgrade on My Oracle Support, there will be a very long page with a manual. And this really makes your life on the command line a lot easier. I want to focus your attention on the Oracle 19C Autonomous Health Framework. There's a lot of services and options that we have available on the 19C environment, also on an 18C already. Thinking about Aura Check, for example, to make sure that all the latest patches and things you have available on the system are applied, but also the security advisor on your system. So this is an example for the Aura Check. Again, these are scripts you can download for free from My Oracle Support, and you can actually see and run it against your database. You get very nice overviews of things that you have done well or not well on your database and things that you should change. So new best practices, for example, that we have introduced, you will automatically see that pop up on your system. Same is database security assessment tool, DBSat. It will help you with see how secure your database is. And also for those people who have GDPR issues and GDPR questions, we can give you a specific list on HIPAA or GDPR or any other of the systems when you're running the DBSat environment. For example, do we have any problems with user accounts, any problems with privileges and roles on the system? Drill down in it, either HTML or XML or text, whatever you like, but run it very often to see what's available. Easy Connect has been improved for those people who want to use Easy Connect on the system with SQL Plus. You can now really cut and paste the whole TNS name entry into the system. And the nice thing about this is that you can also do all the protocols and the failover and all of the things you have in the system, for example. Web SQL Developer is almost released, so it will be a kind of a, well, as I see it, it's almost like an Apex Lite, where you can do stuff on your database, but also the DBA stuff with the table space and the users. And yeah, I really like it. I love working with Apex, especially with the SQL command tool on Apex. But this is basically the tool I've been waiting for, to have a very lightweight option to manage your database on the system. Last but not least, Oracle XE has been released for those people who have not seen it. The free database where you can have up to 2 CPUs, up to 2 gigabytes of memory, and a whopping 12 gigabyte of user data. And the nice thing about it, of this Oracle XE, is that it actually supports up to 3 pluggable databases. So if you want to play with Oracle multi-tenant option and see how much fun you can have with pluggable databases, then please go to this Oracle XE. If you're afraid of licensing, Oracle XE, again, can have up to 3 PDBs, and you can play with it, copying and moving and relocating and refreshing without any problems. So that's, in a nutshell, in 25 minutes, the new features and the cool stuff that I think are interesting for DBAs. There's a lot out there. Please look at it and have a look at it. If there's any questions, there is a Q&A tab on your systems, and I'll try to give you an answer as good as possible. So Eugene,